Hello, hope you guys are all doing well. It gets better for you. So, if it's not, maybe we can help you, especially if it's with aquarium keeping. If you guys are just getting into here, this is a great platform to learn about freshwater fish keeping and anything to do with this hobby, whether you're just getting into it, whether you've been into it for a long time, all kinds of knowledge and great tips and tidbits. And also, the quality of the streams may not always be the best since I am out in the country, but this does always make for good background listening and podcast if you're into that. Sometimes we do get good stream quality. I am getting towards the end of my data, so a big reason why I say that. But anyways, so as far as what's been going on around here this week, did finally get the fish room tour video done. Took me a whole day to even do it, and it's probably going to take me a week to upload. It's 26 gigabytes. It's still only an hour. It's just there were so many clips and whatnot that went into it just to try to save you guys a lot of time. I cut like half hour out of the whole thing, and so that may, depending on the upload, may be up this weekend, and if not, I will have another video for you guys this weekend. And then members, of course, you guys will have your video coming. But it's probably looking like that fish room tour may be next weekend. Which I think it turned out really good. I mean, I went through the whole thing. Besides like the inside of the house and then outside, which I explained all that. But hello, everybody in the chat. Great to see you all. And thank you, everybody, for the support and the orders this week as well. I did go ahead and add a new thing where if you spend more than $25, I'm going to throw in a plant, just free. It'll be my choice just because I have a lot of excess of plants here in the fish room, and I figure to help get more plants out there for people who may want to try something different and or just need more plants. So any order now over $25 will be a free plant. Plus, although it doesn't say it on the website, if you do still buy 10 of anything, you do get one free. So that does still stand, as well as the 10% off code going on right now. Really trying to push. I just got my bills paid, trying to push this plumbing project, and I'm just getting so close. I still got probably a couple thousand just in the pumps that I still have to get to. So still a little climb to get there, but if y'all need some guppy grass, I got you. And Craig, always good to see you in here, Craig. Asking, good day, mate. What are you drinking tonight? I am drinking the water. I usually only drink water, lemonade, and orange juice anymore. Whenever I get tired of water, I just get me some orange juice or lemonade. But yeah. And we did try to TikTok live, as I mentioned last Friday night. And it went all right for a little while, but then it starts buffering. So it'll look really good for a while, then it'll like kick it off, and then it'll go into like the buffering ring of death. So we may get like lower quality here on YouTube, but at least it stays better at not buffering. So we did test that out, and that was interesting to find out. And Lady Diane, always great to see you in here. Thank you for reminding everybody to throw the question mark behind their questions. I went ahead and jumped in the, oh no, I am. There we go, in live chat now. Thought I did, but. Mimic Nature says, is your new water change system supplied by your well? No testing, amending. So, yeah, pretty much, yes and yes. So, it is supplied by my well, and I haven't tested out the system yet, but I mean, I've put many of these systems. I put this whole system together in my last house, and the way the whole PEX system works, there's not a whole lot of room for error. Like, it's almost dummy proof. It gives you a lot of leeway. Like, if you really weren't even paying attention to it, I mean, you'd still be pretty good off with putting that thing together. But luckily for me, I've got a good motto of paying attention pays off. So when I do build things, I am paying attention to them. Asaya Llewellyn says, I'm working on a pond update video that'll feature some of LRB's rice fish. Well, that's awesome. And big reminder for you guys, too, is to be watching your guys' weather. Like, it's becoming that time of year where the weather can just change overnight. Scroll. Well, awesome fishing outdoors with Lando. That's awesome. Says just won $50 on a live from June. If I actually get the money, I'm gonna buy some shrimp from you. Well, I appreciate that and congrats. The angelfish just had eggs. Congratulations, Henry. Congrats. All right, not seeing any questions here. And let's see, I've been working on the plumbing project pretty much all week, so that's gonna be my life probably for the next month plus maybe, because I did get some new parts ordered, and some of them aren't even gonna get here until October 31st, but the price was right, had to do it. Outside In Aquatic says, any suggestion for freshwater plants similar to mangroves? So depends on how you want to do. So mangroves, you can actually stick part of the bark side into the water, but out in the wild, you got the fluctuation of the tide and whatnot. So in your aquarium, you don't have to worry about that. Now you could probably do all kinds of different like types of trees that do like water. I don't know, like certain specific ones that can just like grow straight in water, but I'm sure there's probably some out there. I mean, I've seen videos of like somebody growing strawberries on the top of their tank get like millions of views, and like sweet potatoes and all kinds of stuff. Sure, there's some trees and other things you can grow up like that. So, something to think about. I like to get my aquarium plants to pop out of the water. I think that's fun. I did try to stick a tree into the tank outside after the hurricane. A big branch had fell down, and I was going to see if I could try to get it to root, but it did not. But I have gotten plants to root like that, where you just trim them off and then stick them in some water, and next thing you know, you got yourself another little tree. Roston 2006 says, hi LRB, any advice on moving my 180-liter aquarium from one room to another? It has a thick substrate, was planning to drain it right down and move it very slowly. I am not sure what 180 liters is into gallons, so that is something I would usually ask Siri, is what that difference would be. Does anybody know? Can they tell me what 180 or 180 liters is in gallons? That would help me out. But if you feel as if it's too heavy, like what you can do is try to lift one side up a little bit, and that will give you an idea of the weight. And if you feel like it doesn't lift very easily from the side, then maybe you want to take the substrate out. 55 gallons, yeah, I would take the substrate out. I would take the substrate out. Put it in a bucket. Don't wash it. Let it stay dirty, brown, whatever. Put it in a bucket, and then move the tank with the substrate out of it. And what you could do is you get the 5-gallon bucket and get you like a tea pitcher or some kind of container or cup where you can like scoop all the substrate into the bucket real easy. Even a dustpan works pretty well. And then after you got it in the bucket, move the tank. It'll be a lot easier that way. and then add the substrate back in with the mulm and everything, and try to keep it wet. Try to keep some water in with that substrate, and then your tank will be instantly cycled whenever you move it over, because it'll already have all that good beneficial bacteria in it. Now I'd only fill it up like maybe a quarter of the way, 50% of the way. Now that depends on your aquascape too. Say if you have some plants that may not like, that may be too high up into your scape, that they would dry out if you didn't add water, then if possible, try to get those down to 50%, because what happens is it'll be the equivalent to 100% water change. Now, if you have all that beneficial bacteria within that substrate that you just put into that aquarium, and then you only do 50% water change, then that gives that beneficial bacteria a much better chance to bring back that biologically sound water into the water volume. And then that would transition your fish like pretty much that day. You don't have to worry about stressing them in buckets for a long time. And then the next day you could fill it up. It just needs a little bit of time to season up that water volume. And if you have too much water volume, then it's harder for that beneficial bacteria to stretch as far to be at the right levels that it needs to be, if that makes sense. You got to give it time to grow out, which doesn't take long. But yeah, keep that substrate dirty for that move. And for plants, make sure you keep them wet. I see so many people keep their plants out and in the open air, and that open air will tear them up super quick. Now it's different when you see like aquascape contests and stuff. A lot of those plants come from farms where they've kind of been farmed up in the air. But if your plant's already been under the water and growing under the water, it has a whole different construct than as if it was growing out of the water. Josh Hayden says, my half-bakes have really slowed down breeding. Any tips? I know that they like floating plants to breed in, so they're a big one on comfortability. And then if there's just not enough space for them, if they feel too crowded, they won't bother, and or they'll predate more. But if you got floating plants, you'll notice when your females, and like when they're ready, they'll go over to those floating plants and always drop them off. 4 liters per gallon. I don't know. 47 gallons, still enough. 55 to 40. I would take substrate out for sure. Danimal, Cracker, good to see you around. And thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Setting up a 50-gallon next to basement window. I'd like to paludarium, no filter, ambient light. Any tips on how to attach plants to wood? Sticking out of water, zip ties, glue, and what plants besides peace lily, pothos might work? So what you could use, you could either use glue. Usually I'm not a big fan of glue when it's in the water, when like people glue moss and stuff like that, because moss will automatically grow out of that glue eventually. And then your decoration is just now scarred with a glue glob spot, which I mean, you can always repeat the process, but most people by that time want to do something different with their scape. But with certain plants like peace lily or pothos, plants that grab on, they're outside of the water, they can take hold and root to what you're really trying to hold them down to for the meantime. That's a different story. Glue's not bad for that. I like quilt thread whenever I tie stuff together. That way you can always cut it out later if you want to, and or it's really hard to see. That would be the best two options, in my opinion, would be either quilt thread and or glue. And then as far as different plants, as far as paludarium goes, that's more of a lady LRB question. So she deals with more of the terrestrial plants. I mean, I'm learning a little bit on them, but not as much as I probably should be. right now. Actually, as much as I can. I'm so busy right now. I'm just ready to get this plumbing system out of my head because I have not written any of it down. I'm all just doing it by the fly and trying to get the parts and pieces and everything orchestrated has taken up a lot of my mind. But I do hope to learn more about the terrestrial plants. I think she's in the chat too, so if she hears me, she might throw out some ideas. I'm used to getting aquarium plants to come out of the water. Now, if you look at my last video that I released on Wednesday, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I did release a video this Wednesday talking about floating plants and actually how I have gotten some of my aquarium plants to come up out of the water and using those within the same sort of sense because most of our aquarium plants are striving to get out of the water and they grow out of the water. A lot of them aren't truly fully aquatic like 100% of the time. So, saying that, there's that video there, and then at the end of that video is linked another video that I did at the old house that has more unusual floaters showing same examples where you can create your own marshes. And then even within those marshes, those floating plants that you could create can actually turn into a substrate in its own to where you could put different terrestrial type of plants that feed up and out of those types of plants. So you can layer them in to just really blend naturally from top of the water, bottom of the water, and to the sky. So I hope that helps you with thinking. And yeah, I would definitely check out that video I just released. And thank you so much for that $20 super chat, Daniel. I hope you're doing all right. All right, let's see. Scrolling for those questions, and sorry if I missed any of them. Mimic Nature says, will you be attending the Southern Aquatic Experience in South Carolina in a few weeks? So I will not be attending that. I'm not gonna have time, and I haven't really. Somebody did reach out to me, but they wanted me to call them and on like a certain day and this, and I left them a message on the email, and he never got back to me with that. So I'm not gonna go out of my way, especially with my time right now. My time is kind of utilized. There's very few things I'll break my stride for. Riverfront Aquatics Extra says, hey Lucas, I got a couple of female bristlenose plecos and they've got the sunken belly issue. I'm guessing internal parasites. Is there any special treatment for them or would I treat it as any fish? You would just treat it as any fish. Now, actually with the plecos, you can marinate like some peas into that and that way they will ingest the parasitic like fenbendazole or levamisole, whichever you think it may be. And see, that's the only problem with it is that sunken belly stuff. And sometimes it could be just a complete issue with their gut biome as well. Try to get a leaf in there. One really good thing you could do is put in like a catappa leaf if possible. If not, say if you've got maple leaves around, any elm leaves, whatever, any kind of leaves. Those can actually help those bristlenose plecos through those sort of issues to where they can get their gut biome into the right space to where you don't have to hit them with trying to figure out if they need Pranzenquil, Quintal, or Levamisole, or the other dewormers, because not all dewormers work for the same worms, too. And by then, you're just nailing their immunity system too much. So I would try with some natural food. Henry Figueroa says, have you ever bred coolie loaches? I want to try breeding them. I have no experience. So I have never actually bred them. I do have in a book somewhere on how to breed them, though. I love coolie loaches, and they've always been one of my favorite fish for a long time. But I never keep them because they always get stuck in tanks, and then I never see them. And I did have some at the old house in my 125. It's like one of those fish, like you put it in that tank, you better want it in that tank for as long as it takes you to tear down that whole tank, because they will hide until you tear down that tank. Jack says advice for what I should do about flashing in my tank. I've seen 2 fish flash against the sand over the last few days, but it was only the occasion for each fish. I mean, sometimes it's just within the behavior, and or they just get an occasional itch. If you're not like seeing fish dying and fish like really flashing where they're just like having issues, like something's on them. And usually if there's something on their skin, you could visually see it, and they all got a natural biofilm as well. Now if you start seeing any white dots or ick or anything like that, then definitely good to jump into action. And if you do ever see ick, I would rather approach it with the heat. Just keep your tank at 86 and 86 Fahrenheit for a month, and you'll be all right. Room might be a little warmer, but oh, there's Lady LRB. So for Danimal, she mentioned the arrowhead, philodendron, various ivies. Many of them don't need attachment because of their aerial roots. And she actually just released some video tours, some of her plant room, and then she's doing like a 3-part series. So she's got all the knowledge she's been throwing down on her channel with those terrestrial plants, if you guys are into that. And I will be mentioning, I think I've got it in the community page and then in my fish room tour too. Because I did search her name up today and it was kind of hard to find. Lady LRB by itself, but if you put it in the AKA, then it pops up. Jack says, could the fish possibly be flashing because they've just swam through the mulm in my tank? No, actually, so a lot of the little fish, especially community fish, if they're not like big predators and stuff, majority of their gut biomes is mulm. It has detritus in them. Like, I'm talking about 40%, some are 70% mulm from them constantly scavenging and picking through mulm and all the microorganisms in mulm. But usually, no, is not the case for mulm. I mean, maybe he did get some mulm lodged into a gill or something, or like he had to knock it out, or who knows. But I wouldn't worry about it. I definitely want to start attacking my tank with meds. Fishing outdoors with Lando says driftwood from the great outdoors. How do I make it tank safe, LRB? So what I would do is I never grab any wood that has been lodged into waterway or ends up getting flooded by water, because you'll have eggs of certain things that can just last for freaking ever through dry periods and seasons because nature has its ways. Besides that, I would find it from a dry area. Make sure it's a heavier wood and not a soft floating wood, unless you want to drill it onto a piece of slate, which isn't too hard with a drill bit and a bolt. And next, I would stick it outside and let it sun dry for a while. Let just nature rain on it, dry on it, rain on it, dry on it. And if you could prop it up to where like it's on a deck or a crate to where the bugs aren't all coming into it, that usually helps. But if it's on like a pavement, driveway, or cement, it's usually not too much of an issue. Even if it does have a few bugs in it, by the time you get it into your tanks, well, there's some fish food for you. Lady Diane says MD fish tank will be at Aquashella. Well, dude, I've got to, I gotta meet MD Fish Tanks. That'll be cool. I so wanted to meet him in Dallas, and I didn't get the opportunity to go. So that's good to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Lady Diane. Johnny Best says, the yellow Neo I bought from you, one female as eggs. What's the best plant of your choice you will keep them in? So right now, my yellow Neo tanks are just full of guppy grass, and they've been going bonkers with that. But cribs, moss, I mean, it's really hard to go wrong with plants with neocardinas. I would stay away from like the slower growers like Anubiuses and stuff like that, just because they don't give a lot of coverage. So when I'm thinking about plants for shrimp, I tried to find something that will cover quite a bit of the tank and create more metropolis and AKA little apartment space living for the shrimp. Because the more of that, the more shrimp you can keep in a tank. Fishing outdoors with Lindo says pine cones. How do I make them tank safe, or can I? So that's one thing I'm not 100% sure. The resins from a pine cone, I think it kind of depends on the fish, the environment, whether you soak them through or not. Now, I know a lot of pine cones fall out into nature, into ponds and waterways. I don't think it's a real big issue, but personally, I have not done enough experimenting myself. I have had a lot of pine needles and stuff like that fall into my old tubs outside, but never had an issue with any of those. I'm sure a pine cone has fallen in there. But if you have like a ton of them, now you could always pre soak them. Speaking of which, those pine cones would be phenomenal for shrimp. I don't know how well they do with resins, but that could be a whole thing right there. If anybody would test them, I've got some pine cones. That would be a pretty interesting test to see how shrimp do with pine cones. Maybe somebody's already done it. I just haven't seen it, or I forgot that I saw it. David Preston says, one time you said Matin filters were the best filters, but you did not want to lose 20% of your tank. What would you do differently with Matin filters that you don't currently do? So, I mean, I wouldn't. So, I mean, if I were to use a Matin filter, I would use it like it's supposed to be used, where you've got the air tube and stuff, and or I just stick it in there for holding that beneficial bacteria, because just its ability to hold that beneficial bacteria helps break down waste more, which actually helps a lot with the clarity of water too. Those microorganisms do a lot more work than a lot of people give them credit for. So a lot of people think it's just waste and stuff that goes into your filter. So say you open up a filter, a canister filter, hang on the back, whatever, sponge filter, and it's got all this brown stuff in it. Now that brown stuff is the detritus and the mulm. That's the beneficial bacteria. Now you may have some, say, sludge spots and or like some debris, like plant debris or stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's waste that hasn't been broken down by that brown mulm and stuff yet, that hasn't taken its time and course. But that brown stuff, that mulm, is what is actually breaking down all that waste, and the more of that you have, the faster it does it, and it takes care of all that business. It helps with overfeeding as well. Let's see. That's why I'm away. That's why I get away with doing a lot of heavy feeding here with no water changes and no filters. But I wouldn't use, I personally would not go to any filter at this point. I mean, yeah, no. Well, see, it's kind of hard for me to say that too, because I kind of want to revolutionize filters, but I don't know if I would ever use them. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. Probably why a lot of companies want to team up with me to actually sell those filters. But to me, it's not that filters are bad, and filters are good for some people, you know. I just personally don't like to hear them. And yeah, there's a lot of good that filters can do. If I was only keeping a few tanks, I would have canister filters. $100, I would have canister filters. If I had a few tanks, I would definitely have canister filters. But having 300 tanks, I don't even need filters at this point. Just the canister filters make it so much easier for you. The hang on the backs are good too, but they need modified to properly work within planar aquariums. They're just not built right. Coro works. Lady LRB, can we get a link to your stuff? I think she may be able to link that. Oh, I guess Lady LRB is taking over the live now. Ron Harriman says, sounds like, which is fine. We all share. Sounds like you are a nickel and diamond yourself on the plumbing project. Draw it out on paper, plan it out. Can you give us a look at what you're doing? Give us the tour. So, with the plumbing project, I have been showing that in my videos. And if you go up on my homepage for this channel, you will find how I'm doing it. As far as drawing it on paper and planning it out, I've got it planned out in my head, but to draw it on paper would just be wasting my time. I mean, I can show you guys visually by actually doing it, which is better than drawing it on paper. Even though some people like to get visuals from pencil, but I could actually design real designs for that, but see, that's my problem is I would, even though I do chicken scratch too. But yeah, no, I'm only nickel and diming myself through the plumbing project because, well, I only make so much money. And building this whole fish room has not been cheap, you know. It all adds up. Especially when you times anything by 300. Carrie Brenton says, been using Bacter AE and Shrimp Envy from TGOE. Any vegetable specifically or natural foods you've thrown in the shrimp tanks? You've seen them jump all over things. As far as jumping all over, it was a long time ago. I turned one of my 40 gallons into like a compost tank where I was throwing celery in there, orange peels in there, banana peels, like tomatoes. I was throwing everything in there just to see like how well things would live within that environment. And it looked like a kitchen sink. It got to the point where celery was like growing up and out of the tank, and there was all kinds of stuff just like in it. And believe it or not, it's because I had scuds in this tank too. So I was like, I've got to nuke these scuds out. What can I do? Will this work? It put me in that space like this would be the perfect experiment tank for this. And it ended up having some rainbow fish baby eggs in it. So rainbow fish babies ended up growing up and out of that tank without my knowing. And then there was also a bunch of fire red shrimp in there, which I knew those were in there with the scuds, but all the shrimp, all the scuds, all the fish, all did really well with me throwing all those table scraps in there. So if it's like a natural vegetable, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it so much unless, well, I mean, even garlic works for treating those plecos. Mix some garlic and peas. That'll help with that skinny pleco stuff, worms and whatnot. But shrimp specific. Matter of fact, actually, I think Mark's shrimp tanks, if you don't know who he is, I think that dude has tested like a bunch of that stuff. Matter of fact, now that I remember, he has tested tons of stuff that he would feed his shrimp. Go check him out. Do like a Mark Shrimp Tanks feeding video search. And I bet you will find all kinds of stuff. Oh, there you go. Laura Busto says, my shrimp love guava leaves, avocado leaves, liquid ambar seed pods. magnolia seed pods, calendula flowers, nasturtium, fresh spinach, and nettle. So a lot of the stuff that just falls into waterways breaks down shrimp like to eat. Jared L says, been fighting this black gray algae, not on surface like BB algae, more stringy. Any ideas what's going on? So what it could be is it like dying green hair algae, but not on surfaces. So it's kind of getting into the water column. The best thing to do with this is to just clear out what you can manually by siphoning it off and doing your water change. And then just go from there. Eventually, whatever it's eating off of, you will dilute it. So anytime you have issues with aquariums, dilution is the solution to that excess nutrition. Because that's what's usually causing the algae growth. That's why I don't even fert my tanks anymore. Scroll. KGE is the botanical guy, huh? I haven't heard of KGE. Henry Figueroa says, would you ever get archer fish? They might help with the bugs. Probably not. Those are more of like a display fish. Now, I'm not saying never because eventually I do want some big setups. And archer fish are ones that I would not feel right keeping in an aquarium unless it was like 200 plus. Like I think 200 gallons would be minimum for those. Almost wouldn't even feel right with a 200 gallon. So probably even more than that. But eventually I do want setups like that. Spaghetti Nona says, I have a question. It's always so quiet in the LRB fish room. Do you listen to music out there or do you enjoy the quiet time? I do both. I will either jam out some music, enjoy the quiet time, or just listen to stuff. I'm always, I guess, looking out at the world as a whole from up in space, perspectively. Nathan Hovey says, LRB, if a company said they'd give you filters for every tank, what brand would you go with? If a company said they give me filters for every tank, what I would say is I would be like, let me talk to your design department and then we'll really talk about filters. Besides that, just you could not give me filters that I would hook up to my aquariums and I'd be all right with. I have yet to find a filter where I'd be like, yeah, I would just do that with my time. So that's how that would go. Peplin Creek Aquatic says, if only had one tank, LMAO, who only has one tank? Yeah, you can't just have one tank because you got to have a quarantine tank. So it automatically takes two tanks. And then that quarantine tank becomes your next tank because you don't want to put those fish in with the other fish that you didn't think that would go with those fish. And then so you got to get another quarantine tank. And you know what? It's enjoyable. If you can make it easy on yourself, then having those multiple tanks is not that hard. And that's why we're here, is to try to make it not hard for you. Because to me, the enjoyment and just serenity and connection to nature that people get from this hobby, the more that they can connect to that and just better their lives, then all the better for humanity and themselves. Like, if people are doing better, then that's great. Let's see. Lady LRB says, it's a trip living with this man. I'm a planner and list maker, lol. Yeah, she totally is. And you know what? I do make lists and stuff like that. And I do sort of planning, but I am very whimsical. Or I don't know. Is that the right word? Live my life on a whim. Down for the ride. Has anyone seen Richard Reynolds yet? I mean, as far as I know, he's been all right, but I have not seen him in the chat. Hopefully he's doing all right. And I did hear from Alex. He's back. He's getting better, and kind of sucked he had to do all what he had to deal with down here, but he's alive. That's important. Laura Busto, is it Bustos or Bustos? Says, LRB or Lady LRB, how many your guys' Medeca would recommend for approximately 17-gallon outdoor tub? And I would imagine they could overwinter outside in San Diego. Yeah, in San Diego, that would definitely be fine. As long as they're not getting iced over for a long period of time and it's not a thick ice. Like a thin ice, they'd probably be all right. And then the 17-gallon tub really depends on the surface area. So I think more of surface area when I think about the Medecas than I do depth. But I mean, you would only need a few because you could always make more with the few you have. But if you didn't want to do that and you just wanted a big school from the get-go, sure, you could probably do 10 to 15 or 10 to 17, depending on how much surface area you got. Scroll, 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 scroll. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Looking for them question marks. No, no, no. Oh, there's one. Ron Harryman says, can you give us a look at what you are doing in the plumbing project? Give us some kind of tour. So it's really hard for me to give you tours with these live streams because if I get to moving around, it really screws up the quality of this live stream. Like, it gets terrible. But right now, my members will be getting a look at what I've been doing as far as like the closest real time. And then if you just watch my videos that I've been doing, like I mentioned, you can see exactly like what I've been doing. And then as far as a full tour, the full tour, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it out this weekend. It's done. I just don't think I can get it to upload in time, as big of a file as it is. So it may have to be like a next Saturday kind of video. But the video that I do come out with, if I do not upload that one, will have some of that plumbing in as well, and kind of the projects that I'm going with. If you really watch a lot of my videos, they journal along to a whole journey of a story, to where it's not like, oh, I'm just making a video about this, or I'm just making a video about this. No, it's actually a connection and a collection of like a whole seasons of how things have been going here, to really give you an idea of all I've been doing here. And I've been really transparent with y'all. That's the only way I know. Let's see. 3G says, do you think ropefish would eat ember tetra? You know, I've got a tiny little rainbow fish in with my ropefish right now that I would think would have already been a snack and has not been. But ember tetras might sleep towards the bottom. I don't know how. Yeah, I think tetras tend to sleep towards the bottom. I don't know. It would be a gamble, but they may not. I've never really seen the ropefish like get aggressive at trying to eat a fish. Let me put it that way. But I have not personally tried that combo. Oh, so Alex did stream tonight. That's good. Glad he's back on. Henry Figueroa says, do dwarf gouramis do the same as archerfish? They spit water. Maybe you could try them. Nah, they don't spit water like the archerfish. I have kept dwarf gouramis. Just don't have the space for dwarf gouramis. There's just so many rare fish that I think need attention. That's harder for me to keep more of these common fish, which I know is probably not the best for my channel because many of you guys are keeping more gouramis and stuff like that. And um, who knows? Like I said, when I get the bigger tanks, then yeah, I will have hodgepodges of all kinds of crazy community tanks going on. Which even here, I plan on having some community tanks. But right now, I'm even having troubles with finding space for. I mean, I can't say that because I'm gonna have a lot of empty tanks, but I do still need to make a Killy section at least in Tetris section. Driftwood says my question has been should a hobby consume you? Ha ha ha. Well, I mean that's really up to you. What do you want to do with your life? Life is what you make of it. So for me, I spent a lot of time after school and I mean during school, like after I graduated high school, just thinking about like what am I going to do with my life? Like I do not want to just sit at a desk all the time and I can't work construction forever. Body can only take so much. And so I mean, I had to come up with a business plan or think about something that I would want to do personally with my time. And what helped me think about that was okay, say if I was old and retired, but all suddenly like I had to make money, what would I do? And or how would I do it and enjoy my time? Because life is what you make it. And so you want to be doing what you do have a passion for. I know some people say don't do what your passion is not the same and keep your mind off the money. But no, it ain't about the money. It's about the passion. It's about quality of life over money. And I knew that this wasn't the best way to get a bunch of money, but I knew it was a way that I could stay at home with my son. And it was something I fully enjoyed doing. And once I realized that you could put plants into your own ecosystems a long, long, long time ago, um, it was really game over for me. So then it just consumed me. The hobby consumed me. And I let it. And I enjoy it. To me, it's a lifestyle now. Like it's what I live. Like this is what I really enjoy. The connection to nature. I love coming in, seeing my fish, my plants, my growth, hanging out with you guys, all this stuff. Like I absolutely love it. And I have been through those moments. I mean, I think many fish keepers do go through like, oh, is this what I want to be doing? Is this it? This I've been through all those conflicts in the head, and I know where I need to be, and this is definitely it. But thanks for that question. Let's see. Laura Bustos says, thanks. Yes, I think I'll start with quite a few and just sell fry if and when. I just really want to see a bunch of their sparkling beauty cells. Yeah, when they get in the sun and they sparkle from the top, oh, it's so gorgeous. When I left the old house, I had the platinum rice fish in one of my ponds that I had built out in the back, and there was a bunch of them, and oh my god, it was such a cool, cool, cool pond to see. Scroll, and if you got questions, always helps to throw a question mark behind it. Scrolling. You Ethan Kicks says 35 black neon tetras with 2 Florida flagfish fry. Will the babies be okay? I would say that's a gamble depending on the size of the flagfish. Now, flagfish are really scrappy by nature, even when they're young. So there's a chance depending on the coverage. But 35 of those neon tetras, they're still kerosene, which, I mean, are kind of like piranhas. I would say it's a gamble. I would say it's better off to just put the flagfish in their own little small container. Even if you don't have a tank yet, you could use like a Tupperware Sterilite tub. Just put in dirty filtered, some dirty gravel, substrate, and some plants, and you can set them up a setup like right away. I mean, if you watch me set up any kind of fish tanks, you can pretty much see how I do that, and you can replicate it into those systems. All these like containers and stuff I have in my quarantines and whatnot, those all get made up like that day, as long as you're using aquarium water. Because those Florida flagfish, speaking of like mulm and detritus, talk about a fish that has a lot of that within their gut biome. Those flagfish, most of their guts is full of that mulm and detritus. So as babies, they will sift and eat through that. Matter of fact, let's see. Keeping Fish Simple actually did a video on feeding infusoria in young fry, his smallest fry, where he is just taking a cup of that molmy brown goodness and sticking it in his aquariums. And it's how a lot of baby fish eat. Jack says, any ideas on tank mates for my African butterfly fish tank? It's a 60-gallon with 3 ABFs. Not sure what ABF is. 7 petricolas and 4 hillstream loaches. I need something that will not nip at any of the finish of the ABF. Oh, the African butterfly fish. Okay. And you already got 4 hillstream loaches. Let's see, 7 petricolas. Non-nymphy fish, because even like tetras and even rasboras, see, the thing about those African butterfly fish is they have like worm looking like fins. So the loaches is definitely a good choice. The petricolas, I'm surprised that they're doing well. That's interesting. I don't know how big the tank is. I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't really come up with a whole lot for that. If anybody else can help him, if you guys have kept African butterfly fish, I personally have not. And with their type of fins, I just would be afraid to mention anything other than like a sort of loach. Aqua Gardens Inn, are you going to breed Caridina shrimp, or are you already? So I am already breeding Caridina shrimp. I just don't get a whole lot of numbers out of them like I do with the Neo Caridina, and I think that's mostly due to what lack of water changes and just moving them out, because they are bigger type of shrimp, and I feel like they just need more space, and if they don't have as much water turnover, there may be a hormonal thing there to where they know their capacity a little better than Neocaridina's figure it out. I don't know. But I have been breeding them, and they are breeding. You guys will be seeing all the Caridina shrimp within the fish room tour. Brandy Rutledge says, do you have AC in the barn? So I do have AC in the barn. I do. Terry Gorsh says, will my 5-inch clown pleco eat my guppy fry? Potentially. Probably not all of them, but there is potential because the guppy fry will go down to the bottom and sleep at night. And then the clown pleco they do like meat. Could potentially hunt them down. Because when fish fall asleep, they're really slow. But if you do touch them, they'll freak out and they will go quick. A 5-inch clown, that has to be a record, right? That is a big clown. Let's see, scroll. Wow, it's been 54 minutes already. My time has flown. How's the quality been tonight? Like 1 through 10, how's the video quality been, so I know? Henry Figueroa says, is there any update on your neighbor's aquarium? So I was talking to him. I told him that people are asking. He did shoot a video of it, and he shot like half of it sideways because he wasn't sure of what he was doing. And then so I did show him how he can like kind of flip and rotate that if he wanted to within this program. And he said he's been messing around with that, but he's been so busy with work and whatnot, I guess. And he said he's working on it. So he has been working on it. He says the tanks are doing well. If not, I'll have to go over there sometime. He's going to come over tomorrow with the mower, hopefully. Because I got to get some, at least mow some paths down. I got to get these. Down here, we got these sand spur grass. And if I don't catch them before they start browning, it'll be bad. I want them things tracking around too much. 10, 10, lots of 10s. I see 6 and a 7 and an 8, but a majority of 10s. Well, that's good. I have tried not to move around too much in this live stream, which I think always helps. So that is good to hear. I am at the bottom of the chat, so that's where I'm at if you got them questions. Rob Star says, if you could only keep one plant in your tanks, which would you choose? I would pick pearlweed. Well, that's tough. Or guppy grass. I don't know. Guppy grass I would probably pick because guppy grass grows faster. And I could use it in many more tanks, and I could feed fish with it. There's a lot of things I could do with that, but design-wise, it would be pearly because I could either keep it as a carpet plant and or a mid-ground plant and or a floating plant and or cover the whole tank with it. So it'd be hard to choose between those two, depending on what all my tanks are doing. But those would be my two go-to. I don't think there's really a contender with them either. Brainy Rutledge, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, have a great night. Well, you too. And I did send you an email about those peacock gudgeons too. I'm not sure if you saw them, but yeah, let me know. And thank you so much for that super chat. Have a great night. That support definitely helps. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. Nathan Hovey says, sorry I missed it. What's the numbers for? So that was the quality of the stream tonight to see how well it went. Fishy on Tank Tix says, shrimping ain't easy. Yo, where? You know, it ain't easy, but it sure is fun. Let's see. Sure is. Should be show is. Jonathan Wiggins says, what size barn shed would you deem acceptable for 140-gallon breeders and 20 75-gallon tanks? I was looking at the 12 by 24, but I'm not sure that would be enough. No, that wouldn't be enough. I can tell you that much. So my barn is a 30 by 40 and 140 gallons. I don't think I could squeeze those in here. 40 gallons take up a lot of space. A lot of space. Shoot, I'd rather have 140 gallons. Well, I don't know if I'd rather have it. I'd still want 20 longs, but I wish I had 140 gallons. That'd be crazy. That's a big fish room. I'm not sure what that space would need to be. I'd have to actually do the math. So you want to find out, let's see, a 40 gallon is 36 inches, and then you're going to want at least 3. I would at least give 4 foot, if not even an extra foot for a wider hallway, 5 foot for aisleway, just because it's nice to have space. Says a guy who's got them like kind of tight in the back there with ones that aren't even 3 inches or 3 foot. But keep that in mind. Add like 5 foot for your aisle, and then however many you can get a row and break it out. That I would put on a piece of paper, draw a square, and bust out the old math and calculator. Shrimping ain't easy, says LRB. How much is shipping? So our shipping is actually like one of the cheapest ever out there. Shipping starts at $10, and it takes quite a bit for it to get up higher than $10. And that's the start. But it's usually between 10 and 12, sometimes 15, depends on how much you're getting. What's your take on detritus worms? I noticed them in the substrate, unsure if I should gravel vac planted tank. Oh yeah, don't gravel vac the planted tank, because um, what happens is if you gravel vac a planted tank, all that beneficial bacteria and its symbiotic relationships and the way that it is cellularly designed and connected itself through networks of like funguses and bacterias and all kinds of stuff. The more that that's connected, the better and more beneficial it is to your aquarium. And then the detritus worms actually help benefit all that, kind of like worms do in a garden. And they can be food for your shrimp and or fish. So definitely not anything to worry about. And thank you, Lady Diane, for asking them to hit the like button before we close out tonight, because we are over the hour mark. And yeah, about time to close out. Seems like the fish room's trying to shut down before I am. Danikin Aquatics member for 49 months. My bro, my buddy. Says, what event you going to next year? LOL. I may have another event cooking, so you know I will need shrimp Jesus there. LOL. Well, you let me know, bro. You know I got your back. And as far as next year's plan, I have nada. Nada, nothing planned. Like after Aquashella, I have absolutely zero planned as far as going to events. But you know, I live on a whim. So you never know. I'm sure stuff will come up. It's just I'm thinking more about plumbing and building here than I am like giving talks and stuff. But after this is all done, by the end of this year, like this fish room should be pretty well wrapped up, which is going to be awesome and free up a lot of time for me. Coro Works says 40 breeder is the same footprint as the 75, right? No, a 40 breeder is 36 inches long, 75 is 48 inches long. And the 75 is slightly taller than a 40 gallon as well. I think they're the same depth. I can't remember. Let's see. Mel Wood says, how would you feel about Father Fish saying you can cover a straight gravel tank and it will help with plants and going more natural? I just didn't want to start the tank over. So if you have gravel and you want to put like sand or dirt over the top of it, yeah, you definitely can do that. Definitely. It's kind of like how you pot plants too, where you put like rock on the bottom and then you put dirt on top. It's fine. I've just added substrate in so many aquariums with a fish in there. Just make sure you take out some of the water, because you do not want to add the substrate with a full tank and then that water displacement ends up washing your floor for you. Henry Figueroa says, is there any update on the Caridina shrimp video? I am looking forward to that video. So in the fish room tour will pretty much be that Caridina video. Although I need to make a separate video for it. I just haven't had time for it. But all the Caridinos will be in there. I will be talking all about the Caridinas in that fish room tour video. One day I will make a specific one, just because that's how the algorithms and a lot of things work on YouTube. You do got to make those specific videos, but that will be in there. It is on the list amongst so many videos. But I am only one man. I can still only do so much here. You Anthony Cake says, what does it mean for hornwort tips turning brown? That means it's dying. It's definitely dying. LRB Aquatics says, do you have any wild type swords or know where to get them? I don't personally. I'm not sure what you mean by wild types. I think actually the only one I got is like, I guess would be a designer type because it's like the purple one. I personally don't have them. I couldn't really lead you to a specific place either. I don't really mess with those because those are real tank busters. Those things get freaking huge, huge. $5 super chat. Danikin Aquatics says Danikin Aquatics presents Fish-O-Ween, Portland, October 2024. Oh man, you're hearing it now. So is it happening? Is it happening? Is Danikin gonna do another one? Fish-O-Ween, Portland, October 2024. Well, bring me to Portland. I love Portland and hanging out with y'all. Y'all, you know that. Absolutely blast hanging out with Danikin. Danny and Ken. All right, let's see. I know I'm so close to the bottom of here. That's why I'm staying on here. And if there's not a question, it will pop off here. Oh, Kenny, does that mean you're planning on the end of October for Fish-O-Ween? It looks like it. It looks like it. All right, I think I got to everybody. So that's awesome. Keeping up with y'all. And I hope this video helps some of you guys. And I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for the support. Check out lrbaquatics.com if you want to eat guppy grass, shrimp. I got fish on there. We got terrestrial plants as well because the lady LRB doing her thing. Everything's in stock. Like I mentioned, 10% off code is plumbing. And then there is a buy 10 of anything, you get one free. And then also a free plant with every order right now going on. So, and I think this is the last week for the 10%. I may not add the 10% on for a while because I've got a few things I'll probably be adding to the website, like rainbow fish and stuff like that, that I might have to do exclusions from. I don't know. We'll see how that stuff works. But anyways, I appreciate you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you all so much for making all this happen and helping build this place. So until next time, everybody, peace. Have a great weekend. Da 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 da.